Bienvenidos a mi cita médica. Me da mucho gusto que nos acompañen hoy porque vamos a hablar de un tema que es fundamental y me refiero a la seguridad del paciente. Cuando uno acude a recibir cuidado sanitario, es importante que este cuidado sea el mejor posible, con el menor riesgo posible. De hecho, muchos de los problemas que se suscitan en el cuidado sanitario podrían prevenirse implementando ciertos procesos. Y justamente vamos a hablar acerca de la seguridad del paciente y cómo nosotros como pacientes podemos contribuir a ello. Me da muchísimo gusto dar la más cordial bienvenida en mi cita médica al doctor Salvador Gulo Neto. Él es cirujano y fundador de Safety for Me. Dr. Gulo Neto, thank you very much for being with us with mi cita médica.
Diane, it is a great honor to meet you and to be part of your show. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. What are some common types of medical errors that occur in hospitals and how do they impact patient safety?
Well, first, Diane, I have to tell you that hospitals and healthcare in general are very complex environment. Imagine how hard it is to run an operating room, an emergency department, a cath lab. They are all very different and very sophisticated. And the second thing is that healthcare providers are high-skilled professionals with very good training, but they are not superheroes. You know, they are human beings like us, and they can still make mistakes. So if you add to these two elements, stress, pressure, many hours on duty, errors unfortunately can happen. And the most common causes of errors is wrong identification of the patients, failure to correct communication between providers. We have some medication errors as well, and hospital-acquired infections. And the gravity of these errors could vary since very mild and no consequences to patients to severe complications, including death.
How frequently do medical errors occur and what steps can be taken to reduce their frequency?
The statistics could vary, Diane, from hospital to hospital, depending how long the hospitals are implementing the safety protocols. The average rate is about 10% of all hospital admissions. It means 1 out of 10 will experience medical error during the hospital stay. To prevent these medical errors, we should review carefully every process of care delivery and educate everyone who is involved in this process. And when I say everyone, I mean providers and patients and family as well. Just to give you an example, if you are a patient and you're on dialysis, for example, your providers should know everything about what they have to do to protect you from harm. But you as a patient, you should know what you can do to help your team to avoid mistakes. So education is the only way for providers and for patients and family too.
And how do you manage to involve the patients and their families in the decision-making process for their treatments? And why is that so important for promoting patient safety?
Well, patient engagement is crucial for patient safety. Everyone should be in charge of your own life. You must be able to decide what is the best treatment option for yourself. And if you want to do the treatment or not. Sometimes you don't want to do the treatment, and it's okay if it's good for you. But in order to do that, we have to help patients to make the best decision, and we have to invest time, Diane. We have to invest as much time as needed for quality conversation. We have to discuss what are the options, what are the risks for your case, and most important, the potential impacts of your decisions. This is very important. And this topic is so hot, this is so important that this year, 2023, the campaign for patient safety of the World Health Organization is patient and family engagement on patient safety. So this is a very hot topic.
Yes, it's fundamental. Let's make a pause and we will keep on talking about patient safety. Vamos a hacer una pausa y regresamos con el tema de la seguridad del paciente. Gracias por continuar con nosotros en mi cita médica. Estamos conversando con el doctor Salvador Gullo Neto, quien es médico cirujano, experto y dedicado ahora a la seguridad del paciente. Y nos va a explicar la importancia de que los pacientes participen en su tratamiento, en la seguridad de su tratamiento para obtener los mejores resultados. Dr. Gullo, please, how do you encourage patients and their families to speak up if they have concerns about their care? And what steps do you take to address those concerns?
Dr. Perez, this is a great point. I strongly recommend all of you that are watching us today to speak up with your providers whenever you need. It's our responsibility as providers to make things clear for you and to help you on your decisions based on what is important for you and your family. As I said previously, you are the owner of your own life and you have to be able to make your own decisions. So, in order to do that, you must have all the information that you need to make the right decision. If you have any concerns, first, I recommend you to talk to your provider again and as many times as you need to clarify your thoughts. And if it's still not enough, you can look for a second opinion. My advice is just make your decision when you're 100% comfortable and sure about your possibilities.
Could you please describe a time when you or your team identified a potential patient safety issue and took steps to prevent harm from occurring?
Yeah, I remember a few times, but one day, Dr. Perez, I was at a hospital when I was finishing a surgical procedure. And, just after I finished the procedure and we are ready to transport the patient to the recovery room, and the nurse came to me and said, "Hey, Dr. Gullo, we are missing a gauze pad. And I'm afraid you left it inside the patient abdomen." Can you imagine how I was feeling? I was really scary at that point, and all the team started to look for the missing gauze, and luckily, after 5 minutes, it was a long time for me. That's 3 or 5 minutes of searching. We found it under a trash can, and it was a terrible situation, but the important thing about this situation is that this is part of a protocol, what we call the safety surgery checklist. And the nurse was doing her job. She was counting the gauze pad, all the materials. So this is a safety protocol that we have to follow every time we perform a surgery or a procedure. And she was the one responsible on that day to remind me about, something really bad that could happen, So my answer for you, Diane, is education, and more education. The first thing is to work in a hospital, you must have full training on the basic safety protocols. Most of the hospitals, despite your previous training, offer you a new training just to make sure you're up to date on the safety protocols. And the second step is that every hospital keep monitoring and tracking information about potential medical errors. And they do that not to find, to blame someone or to find guilty, but to learn what is going wrong and what you can improve on your process to avoid future events. So we have so many protocols, but the 6 most famous are correct identification, team communication, safety with medications, safe surgery, the checklist for surgery, sanitizing hands, and fall prevention. Those are the 6 most common protocols that we have to spread worldwide.
Okay, let's take a pause, and we will do the interview after some advertisement. Vamos a hacer una pausa. Regresamos con más. Gracias por continuar con nosotros en mi cita médica. Estamos conversando con el doctor Salvador Gulo Neto, cirujano y fundador de Safety for Me, una plataforma dedicada justamente a la seguridad del paciente. Dr. Gulo, how does your Safety for Me platform empower patients and families to protect themselves from harm during medical treatment, and what impact has it had so far?
So Safety for Me, Diane, is a free platform, and I built that, thinking about how can we educate patients and families on patient safety, because this is a very technical aspect, and the average public, they really don't know about it. So what we did, we create some videos, and on a very ludic way, we create some characters to explain and get connected with the patients and teach them how they can protect themselves from harm. We do have a podcast as well. We call the Safety Casts, when we have experts that share their opinion and tips for the patients, what they can do to help the healthcare team to avoid these errors. And the other thing that is really interesting in our platform is that we create a hotline, a communication channel that patients can reach their healthcare providers on real time, so they can report anything that is happening and they disagree. So it's all about patient safety. Yeah.
So, and how can you ensure that the patients and their families understand the risks and benefits of different treatment options and are able to make informed decisions about their care? Is that also provided in this platform, Safety for Me?
It's a little bit, because we changed the communication. I mean, we have to, when you talk to the average public, we have to use, well, you are a communication professional, you know how to do that in a proper way. So, but to make sure that patients really understand what you're talking about, it's a huge problem, because, people have different education background and sometimes different capability to understand what we want to teach them about. And in addition, sometimes you are so nervous at the time the doctor is talking to you, and you really can't pay much attention on what he's trying to explain to you. So I like to teach what I call the teach back methodology. So after I explain something for my patients, I used to ask them to teach me back. So if I teach you something, at the end I will say, Diane, do you understand what I just said? Can you tell me what do you understand? So I just make sure you really understand what is important.
That's fundamental, because, I mean, we have seen, probably all of us who are dedicated to healthcare and even healthcare communication, that, sometimes patients don't understand what the doctors say, and they just act according to what they think they understood. But for example, in the United States now, it's very beneficial that you have the possibility of doing the prescriptions with the internet online, and the pharmacy gets it directly from the doctor. In Mexico, they are working to have that, but it's not a reality yet. But I have heard cases where the doctor writes the prescription, and not even the pharmacist understand clearly what is said there, because we doctors are famous of having not the nicest way of writing.
Yes.
So they don't understanding, and they just provide another medication that does a lot of harm. So all these processes and protocols needs to be done. So it's very important for the patient to understand, and
Really?
at least while the doctor still does the prescription, it's maybe very important for the patient to make sure that he understands what is written by the doctor, or write it himself on another page, in order to ask for it in the pharmacy, and make sure that he's getting the right medication. No.
Yeah.
So, could you please describe some ways that technology other than this can be used to improve patient safety, and what impact has technology in our practice?
Sure. Yeah. I love technology. I'm a tech guy, and I think we are living in a special moment of the human evolution. So, researchers call this time in history the fourth industrial revolution because, technology became so common and part of our lives. And I used to say, can you imagine your life these days without a smartphone? And we're talking on a platform, an online platform, and just a few years back, we didn't have all these technologies available like today, like, telehealth, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, wearables. And these are just few examples how technology can impact on patient safety. During COVID, for example, how many patients had their treatments online without the need to go to the hospital or the doctor's office? So this is another great example that I like to say is that some smartwatches are connected to the 911. So when the users fall down for some reason, you fall down and you hurt yourself and you're not able to call for help, the smartwatch using the geolocation systems informs automatically the rescue team, and they go rescue. Isn't it incredible? This is some ways that technology really can help us and give us more patient safety.
Yes, definitely. Okay, let's make a pause and we come back. Hacemos una pausa y regresamos. Gracias por seguir con nosotros en Mi Cita Médica. Estamos hablando de la seguridad del paciente con el doctor Salvador Gullo Neto. Dr. Gullo, how do you collaborate with other healthcare providers and institutions to promote patient safety on a broader scale?
Diane, patient safety is all about create a community. I believe the best way to spread worldwide the patient safety concept is working, in partnerships as a community. At Safety for Me, for example, we used to say that we don't have customers and clients. We have community members. So we work together, we share knowledge, we help each other to understand how to build a safer healthcare environment. And talking about community, this year is a very special year for us in Brazil because we'll be celebrating next week, April 1st. We'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the National Policy for Patient Safety. And it's huge for us because on the last 10 years, the system changed a lot because of this policy. And all the institutions that work with patient safety are working together under the umbrella of the Brazilian Society for Patient Safety in order to accelerate this movement in our country. So that's the way we work, sharing knowledge and helping each other.
Yeah. And how do you stay up to date with the latest research and best practices in patient safety and incorporate that knowledge in your practice?
Well, this is the hardest part, these days, because there's so many research being developed all over the world. And, the amount of new information launched every day it's amazing. It's almost impossible to follow everything. So personally, what I used to do is I like to read some scientific articles, publish it on, online at well-recognized medical magazines. And besides that, when I have the opportunity, I try to attend some workshops and congress and symposiums. And we're going to have a symposium pretty soon on June here in Newport. It's going to be the 10th Annual World Patient Safety and Science and Technology Summit. I hope to meet you there.
Yes, we will be there, of course, covering everything and participating in so important issues, yes, for the whole community, and of course, for all healthcare providers and communicators that are related to health topics. Yes, that's very, very important. And yes, very honored to be part of this summit of the patient safety movement. And Dr. Gullo, one last question. How do you address issues of medical errors with patients and their families? How do you teach your colleagues who are in the clinic and are taking care of patients of what steps to take to prevent any medical error to happen again in the future?
Yeah. I would say, Diane, that a lot of providers, they're really afraid to talk about medical errors because there's a feeling that, healthcare providers are superheroes, as I said, and we are not. So my suggestion is to be very transparent. I learned in my life that, people can forgive you for your mistakes if you assume your responsibilities in a clear way. But if you lie and if you try to hide anything from your patient, people will never forgive you. This will break, the link of trust between you and your patient. It's all about trust. So I myself made some mistakes in my medical career, and I was very transparent at the time with my patients. And I have to tell you, it was not easy. There's a lot of pain for both. But at the end, they forgive me, and turns out they trust me more because I was very honest since the very beginning. And the last thing I would say, try to learn from your mistakes. Review what happened and try to correct the root.
Yes. What message would you send to the Hispanic community that is listening to us regarding patient safety?
Me voy a tentar hablar en español, si es posible, mi portuñol, no español. Pero me gustaría decir que hable con sus doctores, con sus providers, para esclarecer todas las dudas que tienes. No deje para mañana. Hable, pregunte para tomar la decisión correcta. No tenga miedo.
Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias, doctor Gullo. Muchísimas gracias por habernos acompañado en mi cita médica. Como lo menciona el doctor Gullo, es muy importante levantar la voz, preguntar cuando no tenemos algo claro, formular esa pregunta a nuestro proveedor de cuidados sanitarios y nosotros salir verdaderamente de una cita médica con toda la información que requerimos y con todo bien claro para reducir cualquier posibilidad de error. A nombre de todo el equipo que hace posible la realización de mi cita médica, gracias por el favor de su atención. Los esperamos en la próxima ocasión. Hasta entonces.